Today we're going to talk all about color. And in my opinion, color is very, very overrated, especially in the photography world. And so today's video might ruffle a few feathers. I don't really care. I'm not trying to offend anyone. It's just my opinion on these certain things. And if you love color, I do as well. What I'm trying to express is that color is non-quintessential towards good photography. So, backstory. I'm gonna try and get through this because I'm a little tired today, but we're doing our best because getting a little more consistent with this kind of YouTube thing again. The reason why I'm talking or making this video is because you'll see online with YouTube and in a lot of other spaces, when people talk about photography or whether they're looking to get better in photography, they'll usually search things like, how do I get better color in my camera? How do I edit my photos to look this way? How do I, just searches all about color. And I kind of want to break this belief or notion is that you don't need color to take a good picture. And so I feel like there's an overimportance or an overemphasis on color science and color theory when it comes to photography that, in my opinion, I just don't think it matters all that much. And the evidence for this is really black and white photos. Black and white photos are just pure evidence that you can take a good photo without color. And so when you remove a variable from the equation and the result, which is a good photo or good photography, is still possible without the variable you just removed, then you've sort of, in a sense, proven that that variable is unnecessary towards making good photography. So black and white photos have this kind of appeal to them that I think most people can understand and appreciate despite its lack or absence of color. And that's because what's holding the frame together are certain things different, like proper exposure, proper composition, the right framing. All of those things are, in my opinion, much more important and quintessential towards getting a good photo than just having good color. Because I've taken plenty and plenty of photos where I've had good color, but they were just terrible photos because none of the other stuff lined up. I feel like black and white photos are awesome. I love shooting black and white and I love shooting in color. So if you'll see, if you'll see my photos, you'll notice that a lot of the colors are very vibrant and very saturated, especially in my cloud photos and especially in my more abstract photography. And I do it for a reason. So it's not to say that I don't like color or that I think that color is irrelevant. I just don't think it's implicative of good photography. Second point I want to make is that if you do still desire good color, because we all want good color, it's not about the manipulation or the secrets that people are using behind the scenes in the photo editing softwares like Lightroom or Capture One to achieve such certain effects. If you want good color in your images, take a picture of something with good color. And it sounds very obvious and it sounds very like duh, but this is something I didn't really understand until I took thousands and thousands of images. So sometimes it's like the most obvious points kind of evade us. The realization I came to when I was backtracking and thinking about this was because I realized that when I was trying to manipulate or edit photos in Capture One and Lightroom, I still couldn't achieve good color, but it was much easier to achieve good color if I had taken a picture of something that already had good color. So this is why people tell you to shoot at golden hour all the time, is because not only the lighting and exposure is really good if you shoot at golden hour, but also the colors are just much, much nicer. And so it's easier to get a good end result if there's already a good input. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of people, they want to get good color, so they'll think about how they can do so in these photo editing softwares. And I'm not discounting the impact that you can have with your photo editing, but I just think, and I have noticed, that it's much easier to get a good end result in terms of color if you have a better starting point. So if you want to take images with good color, here's my recommendation, is just to look for things in the world that have good color already and take photos of them instead of trying to get it in post. Because if you do so, you'll start building an eye for color and you'll start looking for things that stick out and stand out to you, such that when you do get into Capture One or Lightroom, you're able to achieve such end result much easier. So time of day matters, subject matters as well, exposure matters as well towards getting good colors. And if you focus on just those three things, you will be able to achieve good color much better. Hope that made sense. Third point I want to make, and this one is pretty heavy on this whole thing, is that color science doesn't matter. I gotten my own feathers ruffled quite often when I would listen and watch gear reviews of people talking about the amazing color science of Fuji or the amazing color science of Canon or Sony or whatever. I just think it's all technical BS because I don't think there is such a thing as color science. And I also don't think that it matters so much in the real world when you're taking photos. The reason why people talk about color science and all this stuff is to overcomplicate and to over technicalize what we're doing with photography. I believe that you can take a picture with good color with Fujifilm, with Canon, with Nikon, yes, with Sony, even with your iPhone or Android camera, you can take a picture that has good color. And if that's the case, then is there really such a thing as color science? Or does it just mean that every camera we use has good color science? You know what I mean? And so that's why I've came to a somewhat conclusion. This is my own conclusion. Color science doesn't actually matter because I've taken photos with many, many different types of cameras that have good color. And so if that's the case, then you can get good color no matter what camera you use. And it's less about the sensor that you're using and more about the photos you take. And that's it. Is there anything I want to add on that? Not really. I guess this last point was just me trying to stress the unimportance of color science. And if you are someone who worries about color science, chances are you have a good reason for it, right? It might be like in your actual pay grading, you're not just an amateur photographer going out and taking pictures, but you're like, I don't know, a studio photographer or some journalist or whatever. Chances are you know whether color matters to that degree or not. And this is not my knock on that case. So I'm going to wrap these things up because it feels incohesive as it always does when I'm recording these things. In conclusion, 1, good color won't necessarily get you good photos. Evidence is of things like black and white where you can get good photos without color. 2, a recommendation from me to stop trying to get good color in post and instead search for good color out in the world because that'll make things much easier for you to get good color in post. And 3, ignore this whole color science stuff because it really doesn't matter to the degree that you think it does. Like, I've never gone out and taken photos with my Fujifilm camera and have said, oh man, I wish I had the color science of Nikon or Sony or Canon right now. No, most of those times I was just glad to have a camera on me. In conclusion, I think color as an emphasis in photography, because it's awesome, because it's dope, because color is cool, we've placed a much heavier emphasis on getting good color as opposed to getting good photos. And I think color isn't necessary towards getting good photos. So if I'm able to express that to you guys in this video, then I've done my job. In my opinion, what makes for good photos, and these metrics might be different for you and me, in my opinion, what makes for a good photo is good exposure, good composition, good framing. And then good color is kind of like the cherry on top afterwards. But if I don't like the color, I'll just shoot in black and white anyways. So I think those 3 things are the most important things for getting good photos. If you're able to focus on those and get really good at those, then you will by nature have good photography. Let me know your opinions down below in the comments and subscribe to this channel if you're interested in more photography type videos and whatnot. Thanks for listening to my rant, guys. I'll see you later. Peace.